is good news this morning. Lots of good news, lots of positive news, Dr. Hilary. Because talking about a double shot, the 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine are now proven from the latest study to produce a high number of antibodies. And we have the single-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine, as Ben mentioned, which is found to be safe and effective over in the United States. More vaccines are welcome. I think we've got a number of them on order. And more effectiveness is welcome too.
Yeah, we've got the vaccines coming through the pipeline, and that's good because there will be new variants and we will need to tweak these vaccines. Vaccines don't all work in the same way. They don't all produce the same degree of immunity, and a lot depends on the timing of the second dose. So there have been concerns about the delayed second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, especially in people over 80. We can measure antibodies, but antibodies alone don't tell us how long the immunity lasts and how effective the immunity is, because there's also something called T-cell immunity, which are a different part of the immune system. But all the evidence we're gathering is that as we vaccinate more people are protected in the long term, and that can only be a good thing. Well, all we need to do now is to work on that vaccine hesitancy in people who aren't quite sure for whatever reason, and give them the information where they can make informed consent to do the sensible thing. Yeah,
and it looks like there's almost 88% of people, according to the data, over the age of 80 tested positive for antibodies after 2 doses. This rose to 95.5% for those under the age of 60 and 100% in those aged under 30.
That's right.
Those are remarkable results.
It's really encouraging. And the surveillance that they're doing on people, 154,000 people tested by University of Cardiff and Public Health England, and they showed that in those people who are tested, whether they've been vaccinated or whether they've already had COVID-19, that the immunity is very substantial. Yeah. So that's extremely encouraging. Vaccination will be a part of the way out of the situation we're in with the pandemic. It's not the only solution, though, and it's really important that no one's complacent, that we still follow the rules, and because, you know, I'm pretty sure that otherwise we would be back to square one. So
it's funny you say that because, of course, we just featured in the headlines that new campaign that was launched last night, first advert on ITV from the government. Because, of course, if you tell the people that they are going to be back to normal by the 21st of June, understandably, some people will be thinking, well, hang on a moment, if we're going to be back to normal then we can pretty much get back to normal soon. That's what you have to combat, isn't it?
And equally, the weather's improved dramatically, hasn't it? Yeah. Sun's shining, it's warmer outside, people are thinking, I'm going to go out and meet. If I can have a coffee and sit on a bench in 2 weeks' time, why can't I have a coffee with a friend now? And you know, and that's the concern, isn't it, Hilary, that actually...
You don't want to make 1 step forward and 2 steps back, do you?
Absolutely. I think it's really important that people say, oh, well, it's all right, they can see a way out of this, so I'll just bend the rules a little bit and push things a bit faster. It's really important that people don't do that, because I suspect personally that we will get a little bit of a pushback and we might have to delay 1 or 2 of those dates, depending on how people behave and what's happening with new variants and things, because so many things are changeable that it's impossible to give dates. We can only work on current data.
We know that there's lots of talk for parents of school children today. The announcement that the Department of Education have said that exam boards will provide teachers with the opportunity to assess the children when it comes to GCSEs and A-levels. That's going to be done. They're getting rid of the algorithm that caused so many problems last year. Lots of questions that we'll be putting to the schools minister a little bit later on. But, of course, with the return of kids, Hilary, is the testing at schools of those school pupils. And I'm just trying to understand, because I've got 2 boys that will be going back to school imminently and are desperate to go back to school. They're teenagers and they cannot wait. I mean, it really, really has got to the point where, you know, the idea of being...
Are you sure your teenage boys would say the same thing? Is it the boys you can't wait to go back to school, or is it those schooling parents?
In many ways, it's been great having them at home and spending so much time with them, but they are sick of it. They are really sick of it. But how is the testing at schools? Because I'm led to believe that actually at some point they may have to test at home as well.
Twice weekly you're going to have to test your boys at
home. How complicated is that going to be? And how are we going to be sure that those tests are going to be administered in a way that means that the results can be trusted?
As far as I understand it, they will be tested for 3 times at school in the first instance when they go back. And then they will be asked to test twice a week themselves. having learnt how to do it. The test isn't difficult to do. It's not the most pleasant test in the world, putting a nasal swab right to the back of your nose, to the nasopharynx, almost at the back of the throat.
Dr. Hilary, is it the nasal swab that school children are going to have to do, or one in the... I thought it was the one in the back of the throat.
No, it's the...
Oh, dear, that's a really unpleasant...
It's the Antigen test, which is the nasal swab, but it's quite simple. It's quite a small swab, and provided it's done properly, it's a pretty good way of testing who is actually carrying the virus. So just before you're infectious to other people and just afterwards is the best time to do this test. You will pick up the majority of people who are positive, and then you can ask them to self-isolate, and you protect everybody else.
How much can we trust those tests, though? Because they're quite quick to administer. We all have to do them here, and I've done a number of them. But how sort of certain can we be that the results that we get are going to be, you know, not false negatives or not false positives?
Well, again, surveillance will be carried out so that we follow up on what's actually going on. So it's not just going to be left to chance. It's not going to be, there you are, here's a test, get on with it and hope for the best, fingers crossed. It's going to be surveillance so that we see that we're getting the right results. We're going to be double testing some people so that we know who's doing it, what the reliability of the test is, because that is absolutely key. What we can't have is secondary school children bringing the virus back home to parents and grandparents and then transmitting the virus further again and the R rate going up. So it's all about control, scientific control, giving people the information and the education whereby they can take responsibility for themselves and of course, thereby others as well.
Interesting